Good day, and welcome again to 3FS TV. This is Brady, and we are doing Theological Studies class. Now we are up to Sura 2, and I'll just dive right in. And when it is said to them, cause not disorders in the earth, they say, nay, rather do we set them right. It is not that they are themselves the authors of disorder, but they perceive it not. So it's sort of saying God's behind this, or they don't perceive that they are authoring disorder. That's alright. At least past the infidel part, if you remember. It got pretty heated there. Disease hath God increased into them. That's just at the top of the page where we left last time. Okay, here we go. And when it is said to them, believe as other men have believed, they say, shall we believe as the fools have believed? It is not that they are themselves the fools, but they know it not. Okay, believe. So when it's said to them that I'll be God, it's said to them, or I'll be Muhammad or the local imam, believe as other men have believed. So basically play the faith card. There's no real evidence, but conformity, monotony. Shall we believe as the fools have believed? So I'm not sure what it's saying there, but it's saying to me that, well, then it follows up by saying, it is not that they are themselves the fools, but they believe it, but they know it not. I think something's lost in translation there, but I think what it's trying to say is sort of like Pascal's wager, believe it or else, or believe it or not. So, and it's also saying that they're fools, but they don't know that they're fools. And ultimately, who's responsible for them being a fool? You got to ask that question. Okay, let's go ahead. And when they meet the faithful, they say, we believe. But when they are apart with their Satans, plural on the Satans, so this is the problem. I'm just going to stop here because, okay. Alright, so this part is appealing to when a non-believer meets someone who's of the faithful. Okay, so they say, we believe, and this is just the non-believer saying that they believe. Oops, sorry, I just knocked over my little bottle of holy water. I guess that's not good. Okay, I'll need that later if I get thirsty or possessed. So it's introduced a new character here. We've got Muhammad introduced in Surah 2, we've got Allah introduced in Surah 1, but Surah 2 introduces a third prominent character, Satan's. But this begs the question, why, if God's merciful and compassionate, why are Satan's existing at all? Why are they running around just fucking the shit up, kicking over bins? I don't understand why God would do that. I mean, it sort of contradicts the whole compassionate, merciful thing, unless you're going to change the definition of those words. But it's interesting that there's more than one of them. So God thought, yeah, it'll make one Satan, or maybe 2, 3, 4. How many are there? And so it seems to be that they're with, when you don't, the people who are saying they believe, because they don't want to maybe get labelled an infidel, which is pretty bad. I mean, you've got hierarchies so far. So far the hierarchy seems to be Muslims at the top, or Allah at the top, Muhammad and Muslims there, and then you go, if you read the whole Quran, I'll just put the spoiler there for you. Christians and Jews are the next, they're people of the book, and then infidels, they go to hell. So this is the bad side of it. You don't want to be on this side of the fence. infidels, and then you have polytheists. Believe it or not, Allah just likes people who believe in more than one of Him than people who don't believe in Him. But there's one group that's at the pinnacle of Allah's dissatisfaction with His own creation, and that is the polytheist who is covetous. So he's like the Old Testament Yahweh God, where it says in the Ten Commandments, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbour's wife, oxen or ass," and I mean the animal there, not the sexy part of the body. Okay, so you have to ask yourself these questions. They say, this is the unbelievers who are claiming that they are, "Verily we hold with you, and at them we only mock." Okay, so because they're possessed with, or they're in league with Satan, we should mock them? Okay, that's alright though. I mean God's established what He wants. He doesn't want you to be with Satan, even though he's kind of pulling all the strings. And is he pulling Satan's strings? Doesn't say yet. Maybe it'll adumbrate further. "God shall mock at them and keep them long in their rebellion, wandering in perplexity." So not only are the believers supposed to mock these people, but God gets in on it, the show. I mean, it's so God commands them to mock these people who false believers, and then God gets in on it too. Oh my goodness! God keeps them in their rebellion. So He's doing the hardening the Pharaoh's heart trick that He did. So every time there was a plague in the Old Testament, the Pharaoh was cool. He was like, "Yeah, they can go. You just stop the plagues." And God was like, "No, there's more crazy shit on the way. Just harden that heart up." So he's sort of the same thing here. He sets up the situation. He sets people up to fail in a sense, or not reach what he sees as adequate. And then he sets the penalty for that. And not only that, but he's also extended the length of time that they're wandering in perplexity. Okay, and all this time, whilst they're wandering in perplexity, confused as hell, God's mocking them. So he's sort of like on stage like the comedian, and then he's got the heckler. But the comedian's got the mic, so he's a comedian, so he'll just knock the heck out of the heckler. So maybe God's got a sense of humour? Even if it is a bit twisted. "These are they who have purchased error at the price of guidance." So you buy error at the price of guidance. "But their traffic hath not been gainful, neither are they guided at all." So they've basically lost all their guidance. It's pretty sad. And their traffic hath not been gainful. But this is contradicted somewhat. I mean, if you wanted to define gainful, say if you win $1 billion, $1 million, whatever, or you do something that makes you really satisfied, but that's negated completely because you're unguided here. So you've purchased error at the price of guidance. So maybe what it's saying is that you've bought into a false system of belief if you don't believe this book. I mean, I'm reading it to you. I mean, you should be on board by now. We're up to page 4. Actually, we're up to page 2 of the actual book itself, the recitation. So I'll keep the reciting. "They are like one who kindleth a fire, and when it hath thrown its light on all around him," ... God taketh away their light, and leaveth them in the darkness. They cannot see. Okay, so imagine if, let's pretend that I'm God. I'm not. Spoiler, I'm not, but let's pretend that I am just for a minute, and I'll do what God does here. So, okay, so I'm an unbeliever, but I say I am so I don't sort of fall out of my family connections and what have you, my social circle. So when it hath thrown its lights on all around him, which is, I think that what this is trying to say is, the light's on if you're sort of following this. So the light's on right now, okay. But God, me, in this anecdote, has taken away the light and just left you in the darkness. What? So is it okay for God to do it? Is it maybe? Is it okay for me to do it? Certainly not. I mean, they cannot see. Surely just being kept in a dark, completely dark, like a vacuum, sort of cosmic darkness, and that would be a form of torture. Then it goes on. Oh, great! It explains what the torture is. How nice. Deaf, dumb, blind. So I mean, that's the last thing you want, to be in a completely pitch dark room. Therefore they shall not retrace their steps from error. Okay, wait, so it's like he's like someone who's like, say if I walk into a forest and I put a label on every tree so I know how to make my way back. It's like God's gone and got the labels and moved them all so I'll follow the wrong path. Okay. So you can't retrace your steps from error because, well, God's covered your tracks. You can't follow them if they're not there. I love it when he sets people up and then he punishes them because they can't do the impossible. Okay. Or like those who, when there cometh a storm cloud out of the heaven. Okay, wait, where do storm clouds come from? Out of the heaven, big with darkness, thunder, and lightning. Okay, thrust, but hold on though, this isn't accurate because we know that storm clouds, they're part of the weather and the climate of Earth. They don't come from heaven. Unless you want to start diving into the sophistry bag already. Alright, but we're just going to finish up the page and see where we land. Thrust their fingers into their ears because of their thunderclap, for fear of death. Oh, okay, so you've got to understand, right? These people were living in the 7th century, 8th century. They thought, it's like Thor and his hammer. They thought lightning was God doing that. Fair enough, lightning's pretty spectacular. I mean, if I didn't know about electromagnetism, if I didn't know what electricity was, I mean, I'd go, yeah, God did that. It had to have been something else, and it explains it. Even though it's not a satisfactory or accurate explanation, it does explain it better than you had explained it before, which was, I don't know. But in my opinion, saying I don't know it's much more humble and less arrogant than saying, yep, heaven, storm clouds come from heaven. Okay, but that could be true. We don't know where heaven is yet. And leaving us little clues, and the aim of this is, if it's true, is to get to heaven. So we're sorting out a list of what to do and what not to do. Okay. And here's what not to do. God is round about the infidels. And that's on the same paragraph of the bit where the storm clouds come out of heaven with the darkness, the thunder, the lightning. God's thrust his fingers into the ears. No, people thrust their fingers into their ears. That's what people did back then, because the terror of seeing a lightning strike, my God. Wow, it would be so weird to live back then. Okay. God is round about the infidels. But this is not necessarily what it said before, because it's God's put them in darkness, so he's either with them or he's not with them, or he's in somewhere in between. And he said he's with them, and he said he's not with them in 2 pages. Okay, let's read more about what people thought of lightning back then, or what God thinks of lightning. Still, the lightning almost snatcheth away their eyes. I remember. I mean, if you see lightning, it actually can just burn into the back of a retina. You won't see the word retina in this book, because of course you have to know to understand how vision works, you need to know what a retina is. And this book is not about vision, it's about God and lightning coming from heaven. But it's mostly about infidels so far. So let's keep seeing how bad we can get these infidels. See if we can set them up again, set their ass up. Okay. So oft as it gleameth on them, they walk on in it. But when darkness closeth upon them, they stop. And if God pleased, of their ears and of their eyes would he surely deprive them. He's always depriving them, or making you wander in perplexity. It's never like, here, have a free hot dog and chips or something like that, have a free Coke. No, it's not. It's always something more deviant, sinister. But he is the merciful, and he has the last say. Okay, verily God is almighty. Yes, he is. O men of Mecca. Okay, so this only applies to 50% of the population. Men of Mecca, adore your Lord, who hath created you. Created every one of you. Actually, it only says the men of Mecca, but I think you could extend it to all Muslims, because Mecca is the center, right? Okay, but I think I'm giving a bit too much leeway here. Okay, so he's created you, and those who were before you, happily ye will fear God. Happily, okay, so here we go again with being happy and scared. They're either confused or scared, like during the storm when the thunder came and they thought, oh no, it's so bright and so confusing. What could make it? Allah did it. Why did he do it? Right, because to scare the infidels. Because they're scared of death, and lightning will scare people, and God is round them. Okay. So, you've been created, men of Mecca. You'll be happy when you fear him, because he made. God hath made the earth a bed for you. True enough. And the heaven a covering. Oopsies. See, the wording has to be very precise, because if you say covering, it makes it sound as though we live in like a snow globe, like they used to think when the Bible was written, when this was written. I mean, they knew it was curved, but they didn't know it was spherical, or an oblate spheroid, as Carl Sagan would probably say. Okay. And the heaven a covering, and hath caused water to come down from heaven. Okay, so if you assume there's 2 kinds of heavens that we could be thinking about here. We could be thinking about like a, fairy floss land, clouds and God and Muhammad, or we could be thinking about the second type, which is sort of the more sorry about that. This is live, so this does happen. Okay, Okay, so, but it is true to say that we were created from water, and we did come down from the stars, and so if you assume that the heavens are the stars, and I'll admit that I'm basically have to inject these words into this, because it doesn't say that directly. Excuse me. It just says that God hath made the earth a bed for you, and a heaven a covering, and hath caused water to come down from heaven, and by it hath brought forth fruits for your sustenance. This is true. Biology does run on water. Do not then wittingly give peers to God. Okay, so I see this is an argument for the existence of God. We found one we've found a few before, but remember that the previous ones, they were circular reasoning, so they were saying that the Quran's true because the Quran's true. The only other evidence we've seen is that they've knew about exoplanets. Really not that popular. It shouldn't be going off that often. Okay, I'll finish up this page and then we'll be done. This is a long one, but it's a pretty fucked up one, so I want to get it all out the way. Hopefully it gets more sanguine. And if ye be in doubt, as surely some of you are at this point, even if you don't doubt the existence of God, which is perfectly fine, you must certainly doubt his methodologies and his actions. Okay, and if ye be in doubt as to that which we have sent down to you, this book has been sent down to you, our servant, then produce a surah like it, and summon your witnesses beside God, if ye are men of truth. I like this part. It's good. It's saying this is a special book, and if you can produce a surah as good as one of these surahs, then you've game over. But if you can't, then you have to concede that this has been sent down from heaven, and heaven being the Iron Age perception of heaven, where it's the stars are they're not the suns that are far away. No, they're not that. They're not suns that are far away. They are actually heaven or God. It's up there. It's literally just out of reach. But so one could argue that there are works like some poetry, Shakespeare, T.S. Eliot. There's a lot of books that I can think of that are really well written, but they're different to the surahs. They certainly don't name the chapter after cows and then talk about punishments for infidels, but this is good because we finally got to some hard proof, and in the last minute or so I will see if this is actually going to be counted as proof. Okay, so, and if you be in doubt, let's just assume we're in a state of doubt. We're making our minds up. God hath made the earth, he's made the heavens a covering, he's made water for you to get food and sustenance, and if you still don't believe, he's got something else to tempt you in with. If you still be in doubt as to that which has been sent down to our servant being the prophet, then produce a surah like it. Now I'll argue that the opening to Carl Sagan's Cosmos is better. Well, I prefer to hear it. Okay, so you've got this. God shall mock at them and keep them long in their rebellion, wandering in perplexity. So let's just pick that off randomly. This is from the Quran. Now I'm going to pick off something randomly from Carl Sagan, Cosmos book. The cosmos is all there is, or ever was, or ever will be. Our contemplations of the cosmos stir us. It's a catch in the voice, a tingling in the spine, a distant feeling as if a memory of falling from a great height. We know we are approaching the greatest mysteries. Cosmos is vast beyond imagination, lost somewhere between immensity and eternity. Well, that's pretty good, I think. But is it better than this? Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds, the compassionate, the merciful, King on the day of reckoning. Thee only do we worship, and to Thee do we cry for help. Guide Thou us on the straight path, the path of those to whom Thou hast been gracious, with whom Thou art not angry, and who go not astray. I'll let you decide, because that was a whole surah. That was Surah 1 I just read then. We've read a couple pages of Surah 2 now. We'll finish it there. And God's left you with the dilemma. Which do you prefer? Let's just call that Sagan quote a surah. I'll give another example that you can use. The to be or not to be, that is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms up against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to dream, to sleep. That thing from Shakespeare. So, and you got those two. Let's call them surahs. And then the third surah was what I just read. Now, you could order them, and unless this one comes first, well, it's self-explanatory. Thank you very much for joining us again. Next time, we'll be torturing more infidels, I guess. We'll set them up and we'll knock them down. Because God's omnipotent and He's a funny guy. I love it. See ya.